Welcome back to another video, guys. Today I'm going to be showing you what's been going on with mangas. Specifically, some mangas are doing really well while other ones have over halved in price. And there's a very big indicator on why each outcome has happened. So let me show you what's been going on with the top chasers of most popular sets. Alrighty, so to start off, I will be showing you some mangas that have done really poorly in the last couple days. But then on top of that, at the end of the video, I'll show you some mangas that have actually gone up. Not every single manga is down. Most of them are, but some mangas are actually up and they're doing really well. So let's start off with the ones that have been doing practically the worst. So starting off with this Gear 2 manga Luffy. This came from EBO2. Fantastic card, iconic gear. Everything about this is amazing, but it did kind of, go up a little bit too aggressively, and it was probably a bit of an overstretch, to be honest with you. But yeah, anyway, so this was 1330 at the very high. This was at the 19th of January, so about exactly a month ago. And now the latest sales are finishing at 6.3, 6.4, 6.8. So that is half in price. That's 50% loss right there. Well, about 50%. That is a pretty big loss right there. Overall, it's not like it went down to 11k. It's not like it went down to 10k. This is very cheap. And for the record, I'm not cherry picking at all. There were plenty of sales at like 13.3, 13.2, 13.1, 12.5. But then now you're seeing like 6.5, 6.3, 6.8. So yeah, it's not like a one-time thing. Like, this is not a cheap sale. This is a very reputable seller. They have a ton of sales, good feedback. They have, good pictures. Clearly they're a consignment company. It literally says accepting consignments. So it's not like it's a random seller, right? It is like an established seller. So that is a big loss right there. Overall, do I see it going much lower than this? Probably not, to be honest with you. For a manga rare to halve in price, yeah, I don't think it's going to go much lower than that, but who realistically knows? Anything can happen. Me personally, I just don't think it would go much lower. Now, maybe it does go down to like 5.5, but that's not really going down. Like, it is, but it's barely even a swing. I'm saying like 4k or 3k, like that's completely out of the picture. It could hit 5.5. That's not really that crazy, and I don't even think it would be worth covering it, even if it did, because it's just such a small swing. It's more of like if it halves again, which I just don't see happening. Moving on to the next manga, we have the Zoro. It was 5.2k, now it's 3.7. Not the biggest dip downwards, definitely. This is actually, I believe, the smallest dip that I'm going to be covering on today's video, but it does have 2,000 PSA 10, so it's quite a popular manga. Well, not popular, but quite a common manga. But it is Zoro. It's a really loved card overall, and I would say out of all of the mangas, this is probably one of the best ones where he's actually kind of like almost doing something rather than just standing there. A lot of them, they're kind of just standing there, and I do find it a little bit lame a lot of the time, but I find usually like those action-packed ones where you've got like Gear 2 Luffy with all the effects. Like, this is sick, man. They've got this nice, like, with Luffy's face here. This is a nice looking card. Like, it's telling a story, right? But for a lot of them, usually they're kind of just like standing there. So I feel like the ones that stand there usually don't do as well. It is a bit of theory, though. There's not really a lot of data to back it up. It's more of just like personal opinion. But yeah, anyways, this is down about 1,500. Next, we are going to be covering the Sabo from OP13. This one has over halved in price. So it was selling January 25th. This was like the very tippity top of One Piece. It was selling for 2.2k, but now it can't even crack $1,000. Same seller, same format of selling it, which is an auction. Yeah, this thing is now halved in price. And a lot of the time, you can have a store that's a pretty small store, and you can't compare a small store selling a 20 grand item versus a consignment company, right? You have to go consignment to consignment. But more importantly, you can't also look at someone listing it at a cheap price. It needs to be the same format. They're both buy it nows or they're both auctions. These are both auctions, and it's the identical seller, and it's over halved in price. So I made a video a couple days ago, and I was talking about how One Piece just experienced a flash crash, and I just got absolutely roasted in the comment section, and people are saying like, that's not true. The market hasn't experienced a flash crash. Generally, what a flash crash is within a very short period of time, just pulls back immediately. Like, very quickly it pulls back. So within a span of a month, a lot of mangas have had a 30 to 60% dip downwards. That is definitely a flash crash. And to have cards, it's not like a $500 card going to $250. No, you're experiencing 13,000 go down to 6,800. So that's why, like, I understand a lot of people have been like in denial. Like, I've seen a lot of people in my comment section saying like, oh no, a crash isn't happening. It's like, well, yeah, actually, all booster boxes are down, like, what was it, 15% we covered within a week, and the week prior it was like another 15% or it was 10%. So like in the span of 2 weeks, all boxes on average are down like around 25 to 30%, and then you've got singles going down from like 30 to 60%. So overall, like, I would definitely classify as a flash crash. And once again, I don't really see it going much lower than this. I don't even know how this Sabu could even go below $900. I think it's it's probably not the best manga they've done, but it is really cheap. Like, people really overhype, like, I guess how bad the manga is. This is like almost a very hated manga. It's actually very cheap, but I think it's pretty solid. That's just my personal opinion. I think it's a pretty good one. It's okay. It's okay. But anyways, the point is that it went from 2,275 to 969. That is almost, I think that's actually a little bit more than a 60% drop downwards. It's a lot though. It is a lot. But anyways, moving on, we will be looking at the red ace. So there was a buy it now for $12,750. That was the all-time high sale, but looking at auctions, it sold for $11,200 on the high, and now it is selling for $7,300. So definitely not a 50% bump downwards. Sorry, it's not even a bump. Definitely not a 50% dip downwards. 100% not. But it still is a lot of money. It's still about $4 odd grand. So yeah, we'll take only 3.9 if you want to be specific. But that's all the cards that have been going down. Let's talk about the cards that have been going up. Before we continue this video, I just want to say, if you are enjoying the content, I upload videos every single day, constantly putting in the work day in, day out. And if you want to support the channel, the best way to do it is just by shopping on eBay or TCGplayer. Basically, all you do is just click the link in the description or the pinned comments, and then you make a purchase. Once you make a purchase, then I get a small kickback from it. It helps support the channel a lot, and it adds no extra cost to you. So I appreciate everyone who does do that. But anyways, let's continue with the red Luffy. So this is basically the card that started it all. It sold for $20,000. This, if you chuck it into 130 point, yes, it actually did sell for this much. 20,000 USD on the 8th of January. Okay, so it is sort of difficult to find auctions of this Luffy selling, and the reason is because the card is just simply so rare. But this is a sale I was able to find. This is pretty recent, February 11th. Once again, you're not going to be seeing this card sell every day. You're not going to be seeing it be auctioned off, even every week. That's how rare of a card it is. And especially with PSA and as a PSA 10, there's only 161 PSA 10s, so it is definitely rare. But anyways, this card, this one right here, was $24,500. Now, this was only recently, February 11th, so only the other day. Now, if you do check sales, this was January 8th. It sold for 20,000 USD. So, and this is pretty much what it sold for back then, and surprisingly, it's actually up. Now it's selling for about $25,000. Once again, I would like to find auctions, and I generally would like to find consignment companies because it's more straight up, but with these kind of cards, you can't really get everything you want. Sometimes you just have to get, you have to take what you can get, right? So it did sell, and it's been selling about this range anyways, pretty consistently. So the thing is that this card has actually gone up, which is very interesting, but it's not exactly the most surprising thing out there. There's only 161 in the world. Now, here's the thing. When it comes to sealed items, anything can change the direction of it. If there's a reprint, but the boxes aren't sealed, the sealed boxes aren't really going to go up, since there's only unsealed ones being added to supply. However, Bandai did announce that they are going to be reprinting OP13. What is guaranteed, unsealed or sealed, is that this card is going to be more common. It's going to be more available. That is a fact. Right now, there's only 161. As practically the first and second wave, this is pretty much all we get, 161. But if they do a third wave, which they are in June, and if that turns out to be, maybe let's just say the pop goes up to 220 or 230, well, then it could make the price go down to 19k or 18k or 17k, but nonetheless, the price will still probably go down. So I will say this is in a bit of a more unique situation because it's probably not going to hold its price the best just because there is a reprint upcoming, and like, just best case scenario, it holds its price, but like it's kind of unlikely. Usually even, I would probably say even like 20 to 30 more being added to supply can make it go down from say 24 to like 20 or 19 or 18k, but that is all speculation. Right now, what the facts is that it was selling for 20k, now it's selling for 24k. So not everything is crashing. Most things are, but not everything is crashing in terms of mangas. Anyways, moving on, next is Gold Roger. This is another one. So this card is rare. This card is incredibly rare. So there's only 270 PSA 10s. Now, with this card specifically, when it came out, it was the only people who were in One Piece when OP09 came out, they weren't really flipping it. They were more of collecting it, right? Now, you would have some people pull it and then just sell it immediately. In Australia, at least, you could get about 10 grand-ish for the card. So it was pretty expensive. Now, I forgot if that was USD or AUD, but it was one of the currencies. So this card was like really, really expensive, right? But here's the thing about this card, is that I feel like with OP13, with the Luffy, a lot of people entered One Piece. They don't care about Luffy, they don't care about One Piece, but they just wanted to gamble in a sense, right? They just wanted to play a new game that was fresh, right? Maybe they got a little bit sick of the casino, maybe they got a little sick of Magic the Gathering or sick of Pokemon, and they just wanted something to spice it up a bit. So then they got into One Piece. Well, the second they pull this 20 grand card, they're gonna sell it. But I find with the Gold Roger, I know this is speculation, but at the end of the day, let's be real for a second. A lot of people who pulled this at the time when it came out, they would have been a lot more likely to just hold on to it, or someone who genuinely wants it would have just bought it then. I feel like a lot of the Luffy's being pulled now are just being immediately sold. Versus the Roger, where people who chased it like actually wanted it. So I feel like, yes, there's 270, but there's way less of these being auctioned. Like, that's a fact. What I just said is speculation, and if you disagree, that's perfectly fine. We can disagree on that. That is speculation. But what is a fact is that there are way less of this available. The Red Luffy manga, at one point, there were like 5 being auctioned off. You gotta remember, that's like 4% of the entire supply, or 3% of the entire supply, all being auctioned off in one go. But the thing is with this one, is only a couple have sold in the last couple months. There's only been like, I think 5-ish sales of this card versus the Red Luffy where it goes on and on and on and on. And there's like 20, 30, 40, 50 sales. Even though the pop is 160, it's like 1 in every 3 that gets pulled just gets auctioned off. Versus this card where the entire, like from November to right now, there's only been like a couple sales. Anyways, this card was selling for about, I believe, I actually really don't remember. I believe it was about 12k AUD as a PSA 10 a couple months ago. Then it experienced some big boy sales. It was 22k. This was January 26. Now we skip to February. This is February 6th. So maybe if it did get auctioned off now, it would go for a little bit less. But this is the latest PSA 10 sale that we do have. And it did sell for $25,100. So there you go. Red Luffy is actually up. Gold Roger is actually up. And this is such a rare card that there's a solid chance that it won't even get auctioned off during this pullback anyways. Now, when the One Piece TV show comes out, maybe the TCG bounces back again. Maybe the TCG is back better than ever. But the thing is, until then, we realistically won't know 100%, right? And I feel that with this, I feel like with this card, there's a solid chance that this won't even get auctioned off. Or maybe there's like 1 or 2 auctions at the max. The One Piece TV show comes out, and then there's more popularity on One Piece, and then people enter the trading card game. That could be something that happens. Or maybe OP13 and EBO3 reprints. Maybe that comes along, and then that wins a lot of people back, and then they enter the hobby again, because maybe those prices get a little bit cheaper. Who realistically knows? But there's a solid chance that this card won't even sell for like a month. This card is actually incredibly rare. Okay, maybe not for a month, but my whole point is that because this card is so rare, yes, there's 270 PSA 10s, but most of those are in people's personal collections and they have no interest of selling it. They do not want to sell whatsoever. Most of them would have just gotten it a year ago or a year and a bit ago, and they would have bought it, graded it, or bought a PSA 10, and they would just be holding on to it because they like the card. Versus I feel like OP13, the reason why it's so expensive and a lot of the demand that actually comes from it is more of the fact that people are just ripping it to open up and purely to pull and then sell, right? Like almost a gambling, versus this one is more like because people actually want the card. That is a bit of speculation, but the fact that there's such little available of this card does like somewhat back up my theory, but nonetheless, it's still theory. Alrighty, now, Gear 5 Luffy. This card was $19,800. This was the highest sale. The difference with this versus any other card of its similar price is that this has such a large supply. It has 991 PSA 10s. However, it was selling at near prices that the red Luffy manga sold for, even though there are like 1/7 of the amount of red mangas versus the Gear 5 Luffy. Then the gold Roger. This dude was selling for about 22k when this Luffy was selling for about 19k. So these two cards were very close, but this one has 4 times the supply. So this is a very, very interesting card. It's very clear that I believe this card has the highest market cap. If you're not aware what a market cap is, it's basically the supply times the price of the item. So if you only have one serialized card, let's say you have a 1 of 1, right? It can be a $1 million card, but it's not that impressive. Obviously, it's going to be a $1 million card or 500k or whatever. But obviously, it's going to be that. There's only one of them in the world. But if you have 100, that's $1 million each. Well, you can clearly see that there's more demand for it because there is a higher supply but the same price. This, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, is the highest market cap of any card. There are 990, or at least pullable cards. There are 991 PSA 10s and it's sold for $19,800. If you do some quick math, I believe that's $19 million market cap. Alright, so yeah, this card has had about a $20 million market cap, which is pretty impressive nonetheless. But overall, I believe that's the highest market cap for any card, or any pullable card at least. But anyways, it's not like a one trick like way to get the value or the demand of a card. Also, by the way, I don't know if you can hear those dogs. I apologize. They're barking so loud. They sometimes occasionally do that, but like I literally sometimes can't even stop recording because they bark for like an hour straight. So yeah, I apologize if you can hear them. If you can't, happy days. I'm just talking to myself. So yeah, overall, this card, just point is, it had a lot of demand. It went up a lot, but it's $14,750. Now, you might be saying to yourself, all right, well, this card went down. Why are you covering it now versus prior when I was covering cards have gone down? It's because it's gone down such a small amount. It was 19,800 at the very, very high, and now it's selling for pretty much $15,000. That's actually pretty impressive in my opinion. For such an expensive card, a pop of 991, this card isn't that rare. There's 991 PSA 10s. I mean, you got things like the Chopper manga, which is, what, $5,000? And there's only like 500 PSA 10s in the world. You got cards like the Nami, it's $4,000, $5,000, and there's 2,000 in the world. So if you look at that, then that would be $9,000 in the equivalent supply. This is very impressive how well it's holding its price. Like from $19,800 to $14,700, I'm impressed. I would probably say that right now, if you want to pick up any manga, this might be your best bet, just the best one. Sometimes buying the best item can actually perform the best. Just because it's more expensive than other items doesn't mean it can't go up a lot, right? So like, okay, if you have a $30 alt art, it may just be a forgotten alt art in the future and no one realistically cares about. But if you have a manga like this, it's always going to be remembered. And if there's enough demand that picks up, it will continue to do really well. So yeah, that's just kind of the situation there. It just has so much demand, so it is struggling to go down 100%. But that is going to do it for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what you think about this. I think it's a pretty clear indicator. The ones that are incredibly rare or have like an untapped amount of demand versus other ones which are like pretty good mangas mangas, but definitely not the top tier mangas. We're definitely seeing a pullback in those ones. So it's clearly like a pretty clear indicator on what's been going on. I do find it pretty interesting nonetheless. Let me know, what do you guys think? Do you think the market's going to pull back even more? Do you think the market's going to go up? Well, what do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section. But that is going to do it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching.